When was the last time you gazed at your reflection and genuinely admired who you saw? Not just your looks, but your behavior, routines, and path in life. Many people can't truthfully answer that. And because of that, they carry a sense of emptiness, no matter how much affection they receive from others. Here's a difficult truth. The most vital bond you'll ever have isn't with your spouse, your circle of friends, or even your family. It's the one you hold with yourself. Before the praise, before the likes, before the attention, there's just you. And if that connection is fractured, everything else will feel misaligned. You could have a prestigious career, a thrilling romance, and every material luxury imaginable. But if you lack love for yourself, none of it will feel lasting. Self-love isn't narcissism. It's self-preservation. It's drawing a clear line for how you expect to be treated and refusing to lower it. It's choosing to back yourself when no one else will, shielding your energy when life tries to wear you down, and believing in your own worth even when those around you can't see it. In this session, you'll discover how to love yourself above all, not to disconnect you from others, but to make you more grounded, more composed, and more resilient. Because the moment you stop abandoning yourself, you stop tolerating less than what you deserve. Let's review the principles taught by the Stoic wisdom. Rule 1. How to nurture a kind relationship with yourself. When did you last feel genuinely proud of who you are? Not for accomplishments, but for simply being you. Most people don't reflect on that and end up chasing affection from others while ignoring the bond they hold with themselves. But you can't run from who you are. No matter the place, the people, or the role, you always carry yourself along. And if your self-connection is strained, nothing else will bring peace. The reality is, loving yourself isn't luck. It's not a reward that appears when everything in life flows smoothly. It's something you build deliberately, just like any healthy connection, through care, presence, and persistence. Reflect on how you treat those you deeply love. You pay attention to them. You treat them kindly. You're patient with them, and you forgive their mistakes. Now ask yourself honestly, do you extend the same grace inward? The truth is, many people speak to themselves in ways they'd never use with someone they love. They dwell on their failures endlessly. They criticize themselves harshly. They hold impossible expectations for themselves while being endlessly forgiving toward others. If you want to deepen the relationship with yourself, it begins by changing how you speak to yourself. Swap. I can't believe I messed up for I'm learning and improving. Replace I'm not good enough with I'm still becoming who I'm meant to be. The way you speak internally defines how you see yourself, and the brain believes what it hears repeatedly. But self-love isn't just about kind words. It's about keeping your promises. If a friend frequently let you down, cancelled often, and wasn't there when needed, would you continue to trust them? Likely not. Yet so many of us treat ourselves this way. We vow to begin working out and skip it. We promise to cut ties with toxic people and let them back in. Each broken promise erodes your self-respect. You rebuild that trust by honoring even the smallest commitments, getting up when you said you would, completing what you started, upholding the boundaries you set. Another pillar of self-connection is choosing solitude with intention. Not numbing with endless scrolling, not drowning in noise, but genuinely being with yourself. It can feel uncomfortable at first, because solitude reveals your inner dialogue. But the truth is, you can't deeply love someone you don't know. And you can't know yourself without spending time alone. Take a walk without music, dine solo, sit in stillness and ask what your soul truly desires. Just like any lasting bond, self-forgiveness is essential. Love cannot exist without the willingness to release past mistakes. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing poor choices. It means deciding that those moments no longer hold power over you. Every time you choose to forgive yourself, you make space for growth instead of guilt. Gradually, these actions transform everything. You start believing that you're on your side. You stop seeking validation from people incapable of giving it. You no longer settle for less than you deserve, and something remarkable unfolds. You begin moving through life with quiet assurance. Your voice gains clarity, your stride carries purpose, and you no longer feel the need to explain your worth to anyone. A strong relationship with yourself is the root of every other connection. If you hold yourself in esteem, others will too. If you value your being, you'll stop allowing others to treat you as dispensable. And if you love yourself deeply, you'll never again plead for the kind of affection you already give yourself abundantly. Before we move on, pause for a moment. If this message resonated with you, claim it in the comments. I am no longer begging for love. I am giving it to myself in full. Type it, own it, and make it your first promise to yourself today. Rule 2. Why loving yourself is the root of real happiness. What if I told you that every joyful moment you've ever felt, every deep sigh of peace, every sense of fulfillment, was filtered through how you view yourself? Reflect on this. Two people can live nearly identical lives, yet one feels content and the other restless. The reason? Not chance, but self-regard. Without it, happiness always feels fleeting, dependent on someone or something else. We're taught that joy lies in achievements, love stories, or material success. Get the title, win the heart, buy the dream property, and only then will you feel whole. And sure, those things can be thrilling, but the feeling fades without inner love, leaving you chasing the next thing to fill the emptiness. Why does this happen? Because joy rooted in external factors is unstable. The moment they shift, and they always do, the emotional foundation crumbles. But self-love is the rock beneath your feet. It's what makes joy durable. When you value yourself, you stop waiting for others to give you permission to enjoy your life. You no longer need external approval to feel worthy. It's like lighting a fire inside that no one can extinguish. Even in difficulty, and it will come, you have that internal anchor, that quiet steadiness that whispers, I am enough. Here's the challenge. Most people avoid cultivating self-love because it demands unlearning old conditioning. From childhood, many of us are taught that our worth is tied to how well we perform, how we look, or how much we please. We're rewarded for blending in, for living up to others' hopes, for behaving in ways deemed acceptable. Over time, we adopt a dangerous pattern. We outsource joy. We forget that we have the power to generate happiness from within. No applause necessary. The real shift happens when you break this pattern. When you wake up and say, I don't need a perfect day to feel good about myself. When you sit in stillness and feel whole. When you welcome love, but don't rely on it for emotional survival. Self-love doesn't make you arrogant. It sets you free. You can ride the highs without gripping them desperately and weather the lows without shattering. That's strength. And once your joy flows from self-love, every part of your life improves. Relationships, they become balanced because you no longer approach them from scarcity or desperation. You give freely without losing your identity. Work, it feels more meaningful because you're driven by alignment, not applause. Even downtime becomes richer because you're not using it to escape yourself, but to enjoy yourself. The biggest mistake is thinking you can skip the self-love step and go straight to feeling fulfilled. That's like planting roses in poisoned earth. They may bloom briefly, but they won't survive. Self-love is the soil. It's what sustains growth. Without it, your joy is fragile. With it, you become grounded. And the beautiful thing? You can begin nurturing it today, right now. In small acts, speaking kindly to yourself, meeting your needs without guilt, creating boundaries that honor your peace. Every time you do, you lay another brick in the foundation, and happiness shifts from something you chase to something you live. Rule 3. Setting boundaries without feeling guilty. Why is it that the second we try to protect our peace, our energy, or our time, we're flooded with guilt? Why do so many people say yes when every part of their being is screaming no? The truth is simple, but difficult. We've been conditioned to believe that prioritizing ourselves is selfish, so we trade away our well-being for the comfort of others, believing it makes us good, when in truth, it just makes us drained, frustrated, and disconnected from our true selves. But here's a vital truth. Boundaries aren't barriers. They're gateways. You have the right to open or close those gates based on what's best for you. Without them, life becomes overwhelming. People ask more than you can give. You offer more than you can sustain. Eventually, you lose your center. You become so absorbed in meeting everyone's expectations that your own needs disappear. And the irony? The more you give without setting limits, the less your efforts are appreciated. Think about it. The friend who's always available, the colleague who never refuses a task, the family member who constantly compromises, they're rarely held in higher regard for their sacrifices. Often, they're simply expected to continue. Boundaries don't alienate people. They teach them how to treat you. That pang of guilt you feel when asserting a limit, that's not evidence you're wrong. It's a signal you're breaking a toxic cycle. That discomfort is just your old programming, resisting a new, healthier way of living. You've been trained to measure your worth by how much you give. So when you start preserving your energy, it feels like you're taking something away. But really, you're offering something far more valuable. Your whole, undiluted self, not the exhausted version running on empty. Healthy boundaries also come with the risk of disappointing others. But here's a truth many avoid. You can't honor yourself and please everyone at the same time. If someone's care for you hinges on your self-abandonment, then what they offer isn't love, it's dependency dressed as affection. Those who genuinely care won't punish you for setting limits, they'll honor them. Boundaries aren't just about time, they protect who you are. Without them, you end up saying yes so often that your life stops feeling like your own. And once you lose touch with your identity, self-love slips away, because you can't truly love a self that you continuously betray. Practical boundaries are often simple. Not taking calls after a certain hour, declining invitations that leave you drained, avoiding conversations that stir toxicity, taking time alone, even when others don't understand. The power lies in consistency. A boundary you frequently violate isn't a boundary, it's merely a suggestion. But the more often you hold firm, the easier it becomes, and something shifts. Your guilt fades. You realize that those who matter respect your lines, and those who don't, they were only comfortable when you had none. Eventually, you stop feeling guilty for protecting your own peace. You understand that it's not optional, it's essential, because at their core, boundaries are acts of self-love made visible. They say, I matter, my well-being matters, my limits matter. And as you live this way, your relationships evolve. You begin attracting those who see your value, not because of what you give endlessly, but because of who you are. Most importantly, you stop trading your soul to keep others comfortable. You start creating a life that honors your truth, not just one that pleases the crowd. Rule 4. The power of saying no to protect your energy. When was the last time you said no without giving a reason, without apologizing, without feeling the need to defend it? For most people, that's rare. We live in a world that glorifies being overbooked and equates constant availability with being valuable. But here's the truth. Every time you agree to something that drains you, you're saying no to yourself. And over time, those small sacrifices, those tiny acts of self-betrayal, will cost you more than you realize. Saying no isn't about turning people away. It's about protecting your most vital asset, your energy. You can always earn more money. You can mend broken relationships. But once your energy is depleted, your ability to be fully present, gone. Without it, you can't create, connect, or even appreciate what you've worked so hard for. Energy is life's currency, and if you don't guard it fiercely, the world will spend it for you. The problem is, most people think saying no makes them rude, inconsiderate, or selfish. They imagine others labeling them difficult or cold. But here's what's real. People who genuinely care for you will also respect your number. It's only those who benefit from your lack of limits that try to make you feel bad for asserting them. That guilt? It's not a warning. It's confirmation that you've made the right call. Think of your energy like a limited bank account. Every task, every favor, every emotional burden, it's a withdrawal. If you never say no, you'll overdraft. The signs: burnout, bitterness, disconnection, even physical illness. Your body and mind constantly send signals when you're overdrawn. Ignore them, and the consequences multiply. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about guarding the fortress of your mind, your inner citadel. Not every problem is yours to solve. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Saying no is like locking the gate before a storm enters. It's an act of strength, not rejection. But let's be honest, saying no is uncomfortable at first. You've spent years equating your worth with how much you do for others. Changing that pattern comes with awkwardness. That hesitation you feel, it's not a sign of wrongdoing. It's evidence you're reclaiming your life. So how do you begin? Ask yourself before committing, does this align with what matters to me right now? Will this fuel me or leave me depleted? What will I have to sacrifice if I say yes? These questions flip the focus from pleasing others to protecting yourself. And here's the surprising truth. The world doesn't collapse when you say no. The people who respect you adapt. The ones who don't, they fade. And that's not a loss. It's space clearing for healthier connections. With time, something inside you changes. You trust your instincts more. You stop over-explaining. You stop thinking everyone deserves unlimited access to your time and energy. And you begin making choices that leave you feeling free, not burdened. Saying no is one of the clearest forms of self-respect. It says, I value my time, my energy, and my peace enough to protect them. And living that way doesn't shut the world out. It simply filters what gets to come in. It's not about rejecting others. It's about refusing to reject yourself. Rule 5. Letting go of people who don't value you. How many times have you held on to someone who no longer made you feel important? How often have you justified their behavior, convinced yourself they'd change, or believed maybe you were simply asking too much? The truth is hard to admit. Every second you cling to someone who doesn't value you is time you're stealing from yourself. Letting go isn't difficult because we don't realize someone is hurting us. It's hard because we become attached to the potential we saw in them, to the memories we built, to the emotions they once stirred in us. We stay hoping they'll return to who they used to be, even when the person in front of us no longer resembles that version. This is where self-love meets self-respect, because you can't truly honor yourself while continuing to invest in someone who's shown repeatedly that they don't. The truth is, when someone genuinely values you, there's no confusion. You're not decoding mixed signals. You're not begging for their attention. You're not shrinking to stay within their comfort zone. Their actions reflect their care. They show up. They're present. They make you feel seen. Anything less than that isn't love. It's tolerance, habit, or convenience. The Stoics understood the importance of emotional detachment. Epictetus taught that suffering doesn't come from the loss itself, but from our need to control what's out of our hands. We believe that if we just give more, try harder, or change enough, someone will finally notice our worth. But here's what's vital. Your worth isn't up for debate. It exists whether others acknowledge it or not. Releasing people who no longer value you isn't about revenge or resentment. It's about creating space for peace, for new relationships, for growth. It's about redirecting the energy you are pouring into them back into yourself. And yes, it's going to hurt. There'll be an emptiness at first, a quiet where their chaos used to be. But in that silence, something begins to return: your voice. One of life's harshest lessons is that some people were never meant to stay. They were only ever a chapter, not the whole book. Clinging to them doesn't keep the story alive. It just traps you in a storyline that's already ended. And the longer you remain, the further you delay the part of your life that's still waiting to unfold. Letting go requires more than just distance. It demands emotional separation. It's resisting the urge to check their profile. It's not replaying old conversations or fantasizing about how things might have gone. It's catching yourself when nostalgia tries to rewrite the past into something more beautiful than it truly was. It's choosing truth over illusion. You'll know you've truly let go when you no longer seek closure from them, because you've given it to yourself. When their name brings neither longing nor bitterness. When you can remember them without pain and without need. And when that happens, everything shifts. You regain your time. You reclaim your mind. You stop living reactively to their behavior. And suddenly, possibilities emerge. New people, new experiences, new versions of you. You rebuild who you are, this time without their shadow. Letting go isn't weakness, it's strength. It's saying, I won't stay where I'm treated like an option when I know I'm meant to be a priority. And while it might sting in the moment, that pain protects you from years of being undervalued. You can love someone deeply and still realize they're not right for you. You can be thankful for what they taught you and still move forward. Self-love means knowing when to stop pouring water into a wilted garden, even if it once bloomed. Because in the end, letting them go isn't about losing someone, it's about finding yourself again. And that's always a trade worth making. Rule 6. How to silence your inner critic. What if I told you that the most damaging voice you'll ever hear isn't from a bully, a rival, or someone who dislikes you? It's the one inside your own head. The voice that whispers, "You're not good enough. You'll mess this up," or "Don't even try." That's your inner critic, and unless you learn to manage it, it will sabotage your every step forward. What makes it dangerous is its disguise. That voice often sounds like it's protecting you. It says things like, "Be careful," "Don't embarrass yourself," or "You're not ready yet." But beneath those cautious phrases is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of growth. It persuades you to stay small, stay safe, stay inside a comfort zone where nothing can hurt you, but nothing can elevate you either. The Stoics had a powerful response to this. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Your inner critic isn't some outside force, It's part of your mind. And if you control your mind, then you can control it too. The issue is, most people never challenge that voice. They accept it as fact. They assume that if a thought appears, it must be true. But thoughts are not truths. They're suggestions, and you decide whether to believe them. One of the strongest steps you can take is to separate yourself from your thoughts. Imagine them like clouds drifting through the sky. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. The critic may pass through, but you don't have to grab it. You don't have to let it settle. You can observe it without accepting it. Silencing your inner critic doesn't mean pretending it doesn't exist. In fact, ignoring it completely can make it scream louder. Instead, face it. Ask yourself, is this thought actually true? Can I prove it? Or is this just fear dressed up as logic? More often than not, that voice crumbles under scrutiny. Another method is to replace criticism with instruction. Instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I don't know how yet, but I'm learning. The critic closes doors. Instruction opens them. It moves your focus from limitation to possibility. Also, it helps to understand where the critic's voice originated. Maybe it echoes a parent's harsh tone, a teacher's low expectations, or a past mistake that scarred you. When you trace it back, you stop taking it so personally. You realize it's not truth, it's a learned habit. Self-love plays a crucial role here. When you truly value yourself, you no longer tolerate being spoken to, even by your own mind, in ways you'd never accept from anyone else. You begin replacing the critic with an inner coach, someone who still points out where you can improve, but does so with care, not cruelty. And let's be clear, the inner critic will never vanish completely. It's part of being human, but it can be trained. With consistency and effort, you can turn the volume down. You can shrink it from a dominant voice to background noise. Practical tools help. Journal your thoughts. This helps reveal patterns and lets you question negative assumptions. Practice mindfulness. This trains you to catch the critic the moment it speaks. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. Their affirmations can outweigh your doubts. And most of all, take action. Nothing silences the critic like proof. When you act despite the voice, you're teaching your mind that you can be trusted. Remember, your inner critic doesn't predict the future. It protects the status quo. But comfort zones are graveyards for growth. Every time you step forward anyway, you tell yourself, I am capable. I am worthy. I belong here. One day, you'll look back at what you've achieved and realize that voice was never right. And in that moment, its grip on you will break. Until then, keep going. Keep speaking to yourself with power. Keep showing that you are far more than your fears. Rule 7. The role of self-care in building self-worth. When was the last time you truly prioritized your well-being? Not just eating when hunger hits or sleeping when you're exhausted, but intentionally treating yourself as someone valuable, someone deserving of protection, of investment, of love. For many, self-care has been reduced to a slogan, a spa day cliché, a temporary fix when burnout strikes. But authentic self-care runs much deeper. It's not a reward. It's a daily practice that declares, I matter. Here's the reality. You can't develop genuine self-worth without taking care of yourself. They are inseparable. Every time you neglect your needs, you're sending a subtle message to yourself. I'm not important. Over time, that quiet message becomes a loud belief. You begin tolerating less from others because you've already accepted less from yourself. But the opposite is also true. When you consistently nourish yourself, when you move your body with purpose, eat to fuel your energy, rest intentionally, seek knowledge, and safeguard your emotional space, you create a different belief. I am worth the effort. My health, my mind, and my spirit matter. Even though the Stoics didn't use the term self-care, they lived by its core principles. Seneca once said, "No man has the power to have everything he wants, but he has the power not to want what he has not, and to use well what comes to him." That's the essence of self-care. It's not indulgence, it's mastery. Mastery over your energy, your focus, and your inner peace. True self-care isn't glamorous. Sometimes it's choosing sleep over late-night scrolling, cooking a nourishing meal instead of grabbing fast food, turning down a social event because you need stillness, or having a tough conversation that guards your mental health. One of the most empowering aspects of self-care is trust. Every time you make a decision that favors your long-term well-being over short-term comfort, you're showing yourself that you can be counted on. And that builds one of the most underrated sources of confidence, self-trust. Because you can't feel good about yourself if, deep down, you know you keep letting yourself down. Imagine self-care like an investment account. Each nutritious meal, each morning walk, each journaling session, each deep breath in meditation, those are deposits. They compound into strength, calm, and an unshakable sense of self-respect. But like any account, neglect leads to debt. Miss enough deposits, and you'll feel it. Not in dollars, but in your energy, your mood, your self-image. It's also important to recognize that self-care isn't just about what you do. It's about what you stop doing. Stop allowing draining people to occupy space in your life. Stop crowding your schedule until there's no room to breathe. Stop feeding your mind with noise, be it through negativity, gossip, or constant comparison online. This is where self-care overlaps with boundaries, because you can't say you're taking care of yourself while letting your mental space be invaded by everything and everyone. Protecting your peace is part of loving yourself. And here's the paradox. When you put yourself first, you actually become more available to others. You can't give from an empty cup. People who dismiss self-care as selfish have it backwards. Ignoring your own needs makes you unreliable, reactive, and resentful. But someone who's rested, grounded, and nourished shows up with presence, patience, and strength. Real self-care doesn't require hours or luxury. It requires consistency. 10 minutes of daily meditation is better than 1 hour once a month. Cooking one healthy meal beats endlessly planning to start next week. A short nature walk can restore your mind more than hours of digital distraction. Small acts of self-respect add up, quietly, powerfully, until they become your new normal. So ask yourself honestly, if someone watched how you treat your body, your emotions, your energy, would they believe you love yourself? If not, that's your starting point. Self-care isn't earned. It's the fuel that allows you to keep going, keep evolving, keep becoming the version of yourself you're proud of. The moment you decide that your body is worth fueling, your mind worth preserving, and your heart worth guarding, you access a new level of self-worth. And once you've experienced that, you'll never again trade your peace to please someone else. Rule 8. Learning to enjoy your own company. When was the last time you spent time alone and actually enjoyed it? No phone in your hand, no music filling the silence, no distractions pulling your focus, just you, in the quiet, completely comfortable in your own presence. For many, being alone feels uncomfortable, even frightening. Solitude is treated like something to escape, a punishment, a void to be filled quickly. But here's the truth. Learning to enjoy your own company is one of the greatest forms of emotional freedom you'll ever experience. Why? Because when your peace depends on external presence or validation, you surrender control. You've made your stability conditional on something outside of you, someone else's time, attention, or approval. But when you feel content on your own, when you like being with your thoughts, your energy, your rhythm, you reclaim that control. You no longer need someone else to make you feel whole. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a more quiet and untroubled retreat than in his own soul." The Stoics understood that the deepest peace isn't found in a place. It's found in your ability to be still with yourself. And yet, most people fill every silence with noise because silence forces them to confront what's underneath, their fears, their desires, their habits. But confronting those things is exactly how you grow. Loving your own company doesn't mean isolating yourself. It doesn't mean rejecting love, friendship, or human connection. It means releasing the fear that you are not enough on your own. It's not about being alone forever. It's about not being afraid to be. When you can sit in solitude and feel full, your relationships change. You stop entering them out of need and instead enter them from abundance. You're not asking others to complete you, you're choosing them from a place of wholeness. The journey starts small. A quiet walk with no headphones, taking yourself out to lunch and resisting the urge to scroll, choosing to read, write, or reflect instead of defaulting to entertainment. At first, it may feel strange, but so does any new skill. The awkwardness is part of the transformation. Change how you view time alone. It's not a gap, it's a canvas, a space for reflection, creation, or rest. It's an opportunity to revisit hobbies, passions, and thoughts that get lost in the busyness of life. It's a time to ask, what do I think? What do I want? What do I feel? Without anyone else's influence. And in doing so, you learn that your own presence is not only tolerable, it's powerful. There's a deeper shift that happens when you learn to enjoy yourself. You begin trusting your own judgment more. Think about it. If you can't stand being alone with your thoughts, how can you make wise decisions? How can you face challenges without falling apart? Solitude helps you build that trust. You learn you can handle discomfort, work through your emotions, and be your own support system. Another benefit is clarity. In a world filled with constant chatter, notifications, opinions, headlines, it's nearly impossible to hear your own voice. But in solitude, the static fades. Your truth rises. You start to differentiate between what you've been told to want and what you actually want. And that awareness changes everything. You make choices based on your values, not society's scripts. Solitude and self-love are closely connected. The more you love yourself, the more you enjoy your own company. And the more you enjoy your own company, the less tolerance you have for anything that drains your energy. It becomes a self-strengthening cycle. And once it begins, it's hard to turn back. If being alone still feels heavy, ask yourself why. Are you afraid of your own thoughts? Have you defined yourself so heavily through others that you don't know who you are without them? Have you been taught that being by yourself means something is wrong? These beliefs can be unlearned. They can be replaced with confidence, comfort, and peace. Here's the final truth. When you learn to love your own company, you become free. People will come and go, life will shift, but you'll always have a steady, quiet sanctuary within yourself. And no one can take that away. Rule 9. Releasing the need for external validation. Why do the opinions of others carry such weight in our lives? Why can a single compliment lift us up and one negative comment tear us down? If you've ever replayed criticism in your mind or checked your phone hoping for more likes, then you've felt the grip of external validation. It feels good for a moment, like a hit of pleasure, but it breeds dependency. And dependency is a form of weakness. Here's the harsh reality. If your self-worth depends on someone else's approval, you're building your identity on unstable ground. The moment their perception shifts, and it will, your confidence crumbles. One day, they adore you. The next, they criticize you, and your emotions swing with their opinions. That's not power, that's imprisonment. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus said, "If you want to be free, don't concern yourself with what others think." That doesn't mean being arrogant or dismissive. It means recognizing that people's judgments are just that, judgments. They're shaped by their past, their pain, their insecurities. And none of that has the authority to define your value. Living for approval hands your power away. It says, "You get to decide how I feel about myself." And that's dangerous. Most people are too busy dealing with their own issues to see you clearly. They view fragments, they interpret you through their own lens, and often they reflect their fears back onto you. To release the need for validation, you must first see where it shows up. Maybe it's in the clothes you wear, not because they make you feel confident, but because you hope they'll impress others. Maybe it's in the job you chose, not because it fulfilled you, but because it sounded impressive. Maybe it's in how you silence your opinions, afraid of being judged. Once you recognize the pattern, you can start replacing it with inner validation. Measure your worth by your effort, your values, your integrity. Base your pride not on applause, but on alignment. It's the difference between saying, "They liked me, and I showed up fully and honestly today." A powerful exercise is to ask yourself, if no one ever saw this, if there was no audience, would I still be proud of it? Would I still want to do it? If the answer is yes, you're rooted in authenticity. You're doing it for you, not for recognition. And the emotional payoff? Stability. When your self-esteem comes from within, you don't collapse at criticism or become addicted to praise. You receive feedback without letting it define you. You can hear no without falling apart, and celebrate yes without needing it to feel whole. Of course, feedback matters. Growth requires perspective. But there's a big difference between welcoming input and depending on it. You should be able to listen to advice, weigh it against your truth, and still know your direction. External opinions should guide, not govern. When you stop needing approval, your relationships improve too. You don't demand constant reassurance. You're not performing for validation. People feel safer around you because your presence isn't conditional on their praise. You show up as your full self, and that authenticity deepens connection. Eventually, you start trusting your own voice more than the noise around you. That doesn't mean you won't care at all. We're human. We all want to be liked. But it means your identity won't swing like a pendulum based on someone's fleeting reaction. External validation will always be inconsistent because people are inconsistent. Their moods change, their attention shifts, their preferences evolve. If you base your self-worth on that, you'll always be chasing something you can't hold. But when you root your confidence in your own growth, your own truth, your own integrity, it becomes immovable. So ask yourself, if no one clapped, would you still do it? If no one noticed, would you still show up? If no one approved, would you still feel proud? If the answer is no, it's time to shift. Because the most powerful approval you'll ever receive is your own, when you know you lived in alignment with who you truly want to be. Take a deep breath before you go to the next part. If you're ready to stop living for applause and start living for truth, write this in the comments right now. If no one claps, I'll still keep showing up, because I am proud of how I live. Seeing it written will remind you every time you scroll back. Rule 10. How to forgive yourself and move forward. How many nights have you stared at the ceiling, replaying old mistakes like a broken film reel? How often have you whispered to yourself, "If I could just go back"? We all carry memories we wish we could erase, words spoken in anger, chances we let slip, choices driven by fear instead of courage. But no matter how deeply we regret them, the past doesn't bend. What can change, though, is the way we carry it. Self-forgiveness is one of the hardest emotional skills. Not because it's complex, but because it demands honesty, raw, unfiltered, no excuses. It means confronting your flaws, your missteps, your regrets. Not to shame yourself further, but to release the weight that's holding you back. The Stoics grasped this deeply. Seneca once said, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which depends upon tomorrow and wastes today." When you're trapped in yesterday's guilt, you lose the gift of now. Guilt, oddly, can feel productive. We trick ourselves into believing that by punishing ourselves, we're somehow making amends. But guilt doesn't fix the past. It only chains us to it. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is not pretending nothing happened. It's about learning so deeply from what happened that you evolve and never need to repeat it. Forgiving yourself starts with truth. No sugarcoating, no mental gymnastics to protect your ego. You admit the mistake, you own your role in it, and you sit with the discomfort instead of running. That's not weakness, it's courage. Most people avoid this step because it hurts. But in that pain lies growth. When you accept full responsibility, you stop hiding from yourself. Then comes compassion. And this isn't just soft talk, it's survival. Think about it. If someone you cared about made a mistake and was genuinely trying to grow, would you talk to them the way you talk to yourself? Would you call them worthless, hopeless, broken? Of course not. Yet many of us speak that way internally, unaware of the damage we're doing. Self-compassion means giving yourself the same patience, understanding, and care you'd give someone you love. It's recognizing that you are human, that mistakes are part of the process, that growth is messy. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to expect people to be difficult because they don't yet know good from bad. The same applies inwardly. We mess up, not because we're evil, but because we're still learning. If your actions hurt someone else, forgiveness also means taking responsibility externally. Apologize, not to erase your guilt, but to honor their pain. If there's no way to undo the harm, make a commitment to live differently. Turn the lesson into action. That's when forgiveness moves from idea to transformation. Perhaps the most difficult part is letting go of the identity the mistake gave you. Sometimes we hold on to guilt because we've built our story around it. I'm the one who failed that person. I'm the one who wasted those years. But you are not a single chapter. You are an evolving book. That moment doesn't define you unless you allow it to. When you finally release self-condemnation, you unlock possibility. You free yourself to create, to love, to risk again, because you no longer believe you're bound by that one moment. Most importantly, you return to the present. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about no longer letting the past own your now. Ask yourself, if your closest friend made the same mistake you did and they were trying their best to grow, would you tell them to suffer forever? Or would you tell them, "You've learned. Now rise"? That same grace. You owe it to yourself, not because you're perfect, but because you're still writing your story. The day you forgive yourself, you take back your power. You stop living defined by what broke you and start becoming who you were always meant to be. And that choice? That's freedom. Now that you've heard this, it's your turn to speak it into existence. If you're ready to release old guilt and choose your future, drop this affirmation below. I am not my mistake. I am what I choose to become next. Write it down. It's a powerful way of closing one chapter and opening another. Rule 11. Building confidence through consistent action. What if I told you confidence isn't something you're born with, and it's not something that magically appears one day? What if it's something you construct, piece by piece, through the small, repeated choices you make every single day? The truth is, the people you admire for their confidence aren't fearless. They've just built enough evidence over time to trust themselves to take action. The problem is, most people wait for confidence before they act. They think, once I feel sure of myself, then I'll try. But that's backward. You don't act because you're confident. You become confident because you act. Confidence is the side effect of keeping your word to yourself. Every time you say, I will, and follow through, you reinforce a belief. I can trust me. Think of it this way. Every action is a vote for the identity you're building. When you procrastinate, avoid challenges, or abandon your plans, you vote for doubt. But when you step forward, even with fear, you vote for belief. And over time, those votes add up. Your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus said, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid by others. Why? Because growth involves risk, and risk invites judgment. You can't build inner strength if your main goal is to avoid looking silly. Confidence is forged by doing the thing, not by waiting for everyone's permission. Consistency is key. Anyone can take action once. But real confidence comes from repetition. The power isn't in the first time you show up. It's in the 50th, especially on the days when you don't feel like it. It's easy to feel unstoppable when things are going well. But when you're tired, unmotivated, or discouraged, that's when it matters most. Because if you can keep your promise to yourself then, you'll never question your ability when things get easier. Let's be clear. Confidence doesn't mean winning every time. In fact, your biggest growth often comes through failure. The key is realizing you survived it. Every time you get back up, you build resilience. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it. So apply that to setbacks. The event doesn't define you. The meaning you assign to it does. If you see failure as training, not judgment, your confidence becomes indestructible. Start small, set goals you can actually keep. If you've broken trust with yourself, begin with micro-promises. Wake up when you said you would. Finish that one task you've been avoiding. Go to the gym for just 20 minutes. These aren't just habits, they're statements to your brain. I follow through. And that consistency is the root of confidence. Another rule, focus inward. Don't tie your self-worth to applause or approval. Those are moving targets. Confidence built on public validation will crumble when attention fades. But confidence built on inner alignment, knowing you did what you said you would, lasts. And here's the twist. When your confidence comes from within, others notice. They're drawn to your quiet certainty. But by then, you won't need their validation. You'll already own your worth. So ask yourself, what's one thing you've been putting off because you don't feel ready? What would happen if you did it anyway? What if you acted first and let the confidence come later? If you repeat that, you won't need to search for belief in yourself. You'll embody it. Confidence isn't a gift you wait for, it's a muscle you train. And every rep you take, no matter how small, makes you stronger. Keep building. and that strength will carry you farther than you ever imagined. Rule 12. Practicing gratitude for who you are. When was the last time you paused, not to wish for what you don't have, but to truly appreciate who you already are? We live in a world wired to show us what we lack. Social media, ads, even casual conversations constantly highlight the distance between where we are and where we think we should be. And while growth matters, here's the paradox. You'll never feel whole until you become deeply grateful for yourself, exactly as you are today. Gratitude for who you are isn't pretending to be flawless. It's recognizing your value without needing to prove it. It's honoring the battles you've fought, the pain you've endured, the principles you've upheld, especially when it would have been easier to abandon them. It's easy to admire others, their beauty, their talents, their accomplishments. But how often do you pause to admire your own strength? Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Apply that internally. The most impoverished version of yourself is the one who only sees your worth when it's reflected back by others. The richest version is the one who can stand alone, look in the mirror and say, "I am enough." Not because you've done it all, but because you're still here, still trying, still growing. Gratitude for who you are transforms how you approach life. Without it, you operate from lack, always chasing, comparing, striving to measure up. With it, you operate from fullness, not because everything is perfect, but because you trust that who you are is already a solid foundation. From there, improvement becomes a choice, not a desperate attempt to fix what's broken. Start with small acknowledgements. Each morning, write down 3 things you appreciate about yourself, not just external traits, but internal qualities. Maybe it's your resilience, your loyalty, your ability to laugh even on hard days. Maybe it's your persistence when others would have given up. These are not ego. They are evidence, proof that you are already more than enough. Practicing this kind of gratitude also helps you stop tying your identity to your worst moments. Too often, people define themselves by their failures. They replay mistakes until they believe they are their mistakes. But you're not one poor choice. Just like a forest isn't defined by one fallen tree. Gratitude refocuses you on growth, not damage. The Stoics believed in the power of perspective. Marcus Aurelius made it a daily habit to reflect on what he already had, to keep his focus grounded in what was working, not what was missing. That's not complacency, it's clarity. You can strive to grow without hating who you are now. In fact, growth is easier when it's built on appreciation, not self-loathing. And there's another benefit. When you're grateful for who you are, outside opinions lose power. Criticism still stings, but it doesn't wound as deeply. Why? Because your value isn't up for debate. You've already claimed it. You know your strengths, you accept your flaws, and you walk with both, without shame. This mindset takes practice. We've been conditioned to focus on the flaws, to dwell on the 10 things we dislike, instead of the 100 things we've done right. Gratitude shifts that lens, and when practiced consistently, it becomes second nature. One day, you'll catch yourself in a quiet moment thinking, "I'm proud of who I'm becoming," and that's when you'll know the shift is real. So instead of comparing yourself to someone else's highlight reel, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. See your progress, however small. Acknowledge your strength, however unseen. Celebrate the victories, especially the ones no one clapped for. Because here's the truth, you'll never fully love yourself if you're always delaying that love until you deserve it. Gratitude teaches you to love yourself in motion, in the middle of the process, in the middle of the mess. That love becomes the foundation for everything else. At the core of all this is one truth. The world mirrors how you treat yourself. Neglect your needs, so will others. Break your own boundaries, others will too. But when you lead with self-respect, protect your peace, and value your own presence, you teach the world how to value you. Loving yourself more than anyone else doesn't mean you stop loving others. It means you finally love them from a place of wholeness, not desperation. It means you stop begging for the love you're already giving yourself in abundance. It means your happiness becomes unshakable because it's built from within. The Stoics knew this. True freedom starts with self-respect. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins with love. The kind that's grounded, disciplined, unwavering. The kind that says, "I am already enough." So here's your challenge. Stop waiting to feel worthy. Stop postponing self-love until you lose the weight, land the job, or find the partner. Choose to love yourself now, in the mess, in the uncertainty, in the becoming. Because when you do, everything you build, every goal you chase, every relationship you nurture will be grounded in truth. And always remember, the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every connection in your life. Treat yourself like someone you admire. Protect yourself like someone you'd fight for. Invest in yourself like someone you believe in completely. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Now it's your turn to live it. If this resonated, hit like, comment with the biggest insight you gained. Share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more grounded Stoic wisdom.